All right, so what if you could just escape your past by, I don't know, literally rewriting your own soul? That's what we're digging into today. The surprisingly deep, really philosophical transformation of the comic book icon, Vampirella. And trust me, this is way more than just a story about a vampire. It's about the ultimate act of creating yourself.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Everything you thought made you, you. Every single memory? What if it wasn't just wrong, but it was all a lie, deliberately planted in your head just to keep you broken? Yeah, that's the brutal conflict right at the heart of Vampirella's modern story. You see, for decades, her backstory was, well, it was a mess. A total mess. Was she this tragic alien refugee from a dying planet called Draculon? Or was she the literal daughter of the demon Lilith? And what's so brilliant about this is how the writers took all that canon confusion and turned it into the actual weapon used to torture her.
And that brings us right to our core identity crisis. We're talking about a state of being just completely shattered from the inside.
Now, this is so much more than just being confused. She's trapped in this state of what you could call a deep existential nausea. She's haunted by what the comics call the shadows of God. You know, all these leftover bits and pieces of origin stories and belief systems that were just forced on her. None of it was her choice.
And okay, let's get into the philosophy here, because there's a perfect word for this kind of suffering: ressentiment. It's a concept from the philosopher Nietzsche, and it basically describes this kind of toxic, powerless rage. Think about it like this. Your entire identity is just a reaction to someone else. You're not defined by what you love or create, but only by what you resent. And that's exactly where Vampirella's journey begins.
So if her whole identity is a reaction against her creator, who is that creator? Who is the architect of all this pain? Well, it's her own mother.
So meet Lilith. In this story, she's this primordial force of manipulation. They call her a writer who just thrives on chaos. And get this, she uses a magic mirror to constantly implant new, totally contradictory paths into Vampirella's mind. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. The writers took a classic comic book trope, the retcon, and turned it into an actual instrument of psychological torture. It's brilliant. But, to break a cycle of abuse this deep, you're gonna need a new kind of ally. Not another fighter, not a warrior, but a scholar.
And that's where Sophia comes in. Her name literally means wisdom, and she represents this ancient, almost Gnostic kind of power, something older than the usual creation myths. She's not here to fight battles. She's the philosophical guide Vampirella desperately needs to finally make sense of the chaos that's been her entire life.
And this really breaks down the central choice for Vampirella, doesn't it? It's a choice between two mother figures, two completely different paths. On one hand, you have Lilith, the writer, who forces a narrative onto her. And on the other, you have Sophia, the scholar, who teaches her how to interpret her own story, how to find meaning right there in the middle of all the chaos.
Okay, and this right here is where the story takes a huge philosophical leap. Because Sophia doesn't show up with a new, true origin story to fix everything. Nope, she offers something way more radical, a completely new way of seeing.
Sophia's guidance gets, well, pretty radical. She introduces Vampirella to what Nietzsche called the Dionysian spirit. And the idea is this. You look at all the chaos, all the contradictions, all the pain that Lilith inflicted, and instead of trying to fix it or find the real story underneath, you embrace it. You accept that messy, tragic, absurd reality is the fundamental truth of who you are. And maybe it's even beautiful.
And that is the moment everything just flips. The huge revelation isn't about finally choosing one true story over the other, alien or demon. The revelation is that the narrative chaos itself, that's her real origin. All the lies, all the manipulation, all the contradictions, that is the foundation of her identity.
And this is so crucial. This is the shift. She stops being a passive victim of her own history, and she seizes the power to actively create her future. It's not about the facts of what happened to her anymore. It's all about her will to decide what she is going to become.
So, where does this massive philosophical breakthrough actually lead? Well, it leads to a truly radical and powerful transformation.
By embracing all of this, she actually achieves the state that Nietzsche called the Übermensch, or the overhuman. This is the ultimate goal of his philosophy. It's about becoming a being who has moved way past that toxic state of ressentiment, rejects victimhood entirely, and becomes the one and only author of their own meaning. And here we see it, her final form. She is no longer just a character in her mother's sick and twisted play. She transcends the whole thing, and she's described as literally laughs at the need for a single, fixed identity. She just doesn't need it anymore.
This transformation is so complete, it gives her some incredible new classifications. First, she achieves what's called a self-begotten state. Basically, she defines herself from the inside out, which makes her completely immune to outside manipulation, to recons. Second, her fractured past becomes her greatest weapon. She now remembers every lie, every timeline, every deletion. This turns her into what the source material calls a high-level informational hazard, an uncontainable subject.
So you see, she doesn't just pick a side in some big war between order and chaos. No, she creates a third path. It's a brand new metaphysical state that fuses that raw, primal instinct with the conscious will of being an author. She forges something completely new from the pieces.
And so this is who she becomes, the self-begotten queen. The key thing to understand is that she hasn't erased her trauma, she has mastered it. The very chaos that her mother used to build her prison has now become the key to her ultimate freedom.
In the end, when she finally confronts her mother, it's not with a fist fight. It's with this powerful declaration of absolute independence. She's not just tearing up the script anymore, she is the one holding the pen.
Which leaves us with one final, really fascinating thought, tying back to her unique power. What are the true limits of a being who remembers everything the universe itself is trying so desperately to forget? I mean, when you stop being a story that's being told and you become the author, what can't you write?